and welcome to Green Spoon Martyr's Quick Hits, everything you need to know in the cannabis space. My name is Nick Richards. I'm a partner and co-chair of the cannabis practice here at Green Spoon Martyr, and really excited to have Bruce Anderson on the show today. I think I can call it a show. Bruce Anderson is a CPA in Los Angeles. He's been doing this work for a long time. He's helping a lot of cannabis companies get their accounting and get their tax returns correct. That is a major job in the cannabis space, and like no other industry, I might add as well. Bruce, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Bruce, always great to see you. I really appreciate the work we've done together over the years, and really glad to have you on the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Bruce Anderson Accounting is all about?
Okay, sure will. So we're a boutique firm located in Los Angeles. We've rebranded for the overall corporation as BTA Corporation, but we specifically have branded our division associated with the cannabis industry as Cannabis CPA.tax. We had played around some other names and so forth, and we felt that this is a good way to go on this thing. We're primarily based in California, where we have a wide variety of clients at this stage. We have cultivators, both indoor and outdoor, distributors, distros is what I'm stumbling on, retailers and manufacturers. With the last couple of years, I've been involved with a couple of national organizations. As a result of that, I'm doing now work in about 6 other states. The big things that we do, which are transportable from just California outside of the state, are 2 big areas. One is the taxation, and the second is the systems or the accounting stuff, which we're going to really dive into for today. We've been involved with QuickBooks as both resellers as well as pro advisors for many years. In fact, I think it's before the turn of the century, which seems like a long time. And we're happy to be here today. And I think this is a very vital subject, which I think many times kind of gets glossed over. It's like, oh, it's just accounting stuff. But I think that's the root of having a good system and being able to do well when it gets to your level of having an audit, which now we know is more and more prevalent.
Yeah, I think in the cannabis space, you have to expect to get audited. And so you better get your books and records in order. I handle a lot of those audits, and I'll tell you, they sure are a lot easier when the books and records are in order and things match. Bruce, in my experience, the first thing the IRS always does in those audits is they take your QuickBooks, they take your tax returns, and they take your general ledger, and they look at that bottom line and they want to see a match, right? The numbers should be the same. Unfortunately, oftentimes they aren't. And in the cannabis space, I'll add in that the metric records as well, the seed to sale tracking records. Bruce, that's like no other industry, right? Where you've got all those different sort of areas that are coming together, and they're not really the same thing. You know, metric is not a point of sale system; it's an inventory system. And you know, your general ledger is your general ledger, and I've seen a lot of problems around that. Do those numbers match?
Well, so that's where the root of the problems lies. And what's interesting is that parts of the industry, such as the retail, which you mentioned with the point of sale, is fairly well developed. And so therefore you have basically 3 levels of technology to deal with. And again, this is a low tech, no tech product in weed, but it's a high tech, highly regulated industry with regards to the way in which you have to manage. And they are state mandated requirements. And so you've got an accounting system that's your base level that touches your taxes. You've got your point of sale, which sometimes is referred to as a seed to sale kind of process. And you've got metric on top. And depending upon the part of the industry, those 3 have to match. And typically what happens a lot of times is that, and this is from the way the industry's evolved. It has evolved as we need to have the ability to report sales on the point of sale system, but we don't need to have a fully developed accounting system. So therefore, inventory management kind of came later, and it's sort of kind of getting there. But things that are typical within non-cannabis industries, such as purchase orders and managing the way in which the product has been received and managed, those are some serious gaps in many of the point of sale systems. Now you move back into parts of the other parts of the industry, such as cultivation. And I've got cultivators who still are going through product demos and so forth. And so what we've chosen to do is say, look, metric is a required part of the equation. So therefore, let's go ahead and just write some script to go between metric and the accounting system, and forget about this interim seed to sale piece. And very much the same with manufacturing, where I went for a demo. I got up early one Saturday to look for a demo of a manufacturing package, and the guy goes, "Okay, you ready for this?" I said, "Yeah." He said, he pushes a button. He says, "Okay, well that's it. We just move the product." And so these are not well developed in many cases as well, also. And so you've got to really kind of pick and choose how you're going to manage that system. As you mentioned, metric is a volume quantity related arrangement, whereas the taxation on the sales tax side, as well as excise in certain ranges, and because I'm struggling with how to describe excise tax in California because it just zapped the cultivation side, it still exists, but it is a dollars kind of figure. So at the state level, you've got to figure out how to combine volume versus dollars. And so that's another sensitive issue about how to put the system together.
Bruce, when I'm talking to new startups in the space, oftentimes I get the question, Nick, do you have a chart of accounts you can share with us? I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant. And I always say no. What is a chart of accounts any different in the cannabis space than it would be in a non-cannabis business? Is it?
So the simple answer is yes, absolutely. And it isn't just cannabis versus non-cannabis. There's probably 10, 15 charts that QuickBooks will offer you right out of the box. Choose your industry, we give you the chart. What happens in the cannabis industry is dependent upon where you are within that industry group. Are you on the cultivation side? Are you the manufacturing or retail? Then there are specifics which then match up against your tax return. So therefore, if you are in the 280E zone, then you need to be careful about what kinds of things are in that cost of goods sold. If you are in cultivation, then we know that you have more opportunities to avoid 280E repercussions. And there's some standardization that can be provided in those areas so that you have good structure and it's consistent across whatever number of units you have in each of those areas. The other thing that comes into play is that there's allocations, and allocations can be moving expenses from G&A into cost of goods sold, because now you've done a better job at identifying what your business is. And it can also be moving them horizontally between cultivation versus distribution, where there can be more sensitivity to 280E in that distribution area, where you have some more flexibility in the cultivation. And so those charts of account have to fit within what the tax returns show. And also, if you do a really nice job, the owners will have a continuous understanding about what their tax liabilities are from an income tax standpoint. And that's something that many times people don't think about. They think that it's a once a year to figure out what your taxes look like. But if your chart is constructed correctly, you could have a minute by minute understanding about what your tax liabilities are going to be looking like.
Which is critical in the cannabis space, of course, because taxes can be based on money spent and as opposed to money received. And it's hard to know what that is because of 280E until you get your accounting done. So I would think that being able to know minute by minute where you are on that is extremely important. Bruce, I've helped a lot of cannabis companies get out of penalties because they just don't know what their tax is until they get their tax return, because it's not based on real money, and what a valuable service that would be to be able to have that knowledge as you're going along. Bruce, what else? Okay, I'm a new cannabis company. I'm all excited. I got the flame, all that. When do I hire my accountant? When do I get rolling on this stuff? Is that one of the first things I should do when I start my business?
Well, it's the simplest answer is yes. And I have some clients that pick up, not every client you get is brand new. So therefore they have history behind them and so forth. And so I'm constantly working with clients who've done everything in their Google Docs. And so therefore it's like, well, that's nice, but that's not an accounting system. So we're porting stuff in. To be able to know how to manage your books and records from the get-go is really important. To understand if you're ordering product, that you need to use accounting features such as purchase orders and receiving those purchase orders, and then be able to time your payments based upon what your payment terms are with your vendors and so forth. Really, really important. Yeah. I try to take the approach of, I prefer to have my clients spend money on other things than accounting fees at the front end. So therefore I try to give them some idea about what kind of money is going to cost them to get things up and running, and try to minimize that, or try to run it over a period of time that matches what their timetable is to open. Many times what happens is they'll get a go ahead that they're going to have a license in a particular area, but it's 6 months or 8 months before they're in business. So therefore we stretch out the amount of activities needed over 8 months. So therefore it is a very palatable situation to have some good quality accounting assistance, but not breaking the bank as they're going forward.
Bruce, love what you're doing for your clients there. And really, we all in the industry really appreciate, soft on the gas in those early days. I do that too for my clients, and I know how important that is. Bruce, tell us how we can find you.
Did you want to touch on auditing at all?
Do you have a tip on that?
So we talked about the other day about how there are, when you go into an audit engagement, you basically have a situation where they're going to ask for some historical period, 12 months plus 2 on the either side. So you got a 14-month audit. So therefore, to trim that file so that the IRS is only getting that 14 months is really important. And there are ways in which that can be managed correctly. The other thing is now there's a push towards QuickBooks Online, which is an online, you get everything all at once, but that can also be migrated to a desktop and then do the proper trimming as well. So therefore, the audit is really in the hands of the taxpayer that's being audited, not in the hands of a third-party software company, or not in the hands of the IRS themselves. So I think it's important for people to be aware of the control factors associated with an IRS examination.
Thank you, Bruce. And you're responding to a comment I gave a little while ago about the difficulty of pulling. You have an audit for a single year, pulling the other areas out of your QuickBooks. That's really difficult. And the important thing to know, folks, is that Mr. Anderson knows how to do it. He's a man who knows all about QuickBooks, and he can eliminate that data for us and get a clean file. And he knows the process to do that. It may require a special kind of QuickBooks program. You have to have the full robust one to do it and all that kind of stuff, but it can be done. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. Now I'm going to ask you for that phone number. Bruce, how should people get a hold of you?
So you can go to my website, which is cannabiscpa.tax. Right there's an info screen. There's typically info in every one. If you want to send me an email, it's bruce@cannabiscpa.tax. And phone numbers we can use as well. But I think that going to the website is probably the easiest thing to do.
Thank you so much, Bruce. And once again, I'm Nick Richards with Green Spoon Martyr. Hey, our website is gmlaw.com. Come see us. We'd love to talk to you. Have a great day, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.